watching WKYT News at noon.
Good afternoon. The news continues as we approach 12:30.
We have heavy rain and storms moving into the area this afternoon.
We begin with WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris, who's tracking the situation for us right now. Micah?
Well, we're still seeing that rain slowly push eastbound, and I say slowly, this rain is not moving all that fast. Look for it to come right around Lexington, I would say within the hour and a half, so 1 to 2 p.m. is when you'll start to see it move right over Lexington. And look, once this starts, Danville, you're now seeing the rain start across your neck of the woods. It's not moving fast. Give it 3, maybe even 4 hours before it calms down, because it's just going to take some time. Pretty high rain totals will start to add up here in the next 3 to 4 hours, especially for the western zones where it is right now. But watch these temperatures drop off as we go throughout the afternoon once that rain does increase. And those gusty winds outside, remember, we have a wind advisory in effect all the way through the afternoon and off into the evening for the eastern zones. So along with that rain, the gusty winds, now we go overnight and into tomorrow, you can see that really clears on out. It'll be a pretty nice day tomorrow. Friday's going to be on the cool side, but this weekend is going to be cold. You heard me right. Not cool, not chilly. It's going to be cold. I'll show you how low we go with those temperatures coming up.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit and try to get ready for that. We are tracking the investigation right now into a string of shootings that happened in Lexington.
The shootings happened yesterday afternoon, each just a few miles apart on the city's north side. At least 2 people were injured. WKYT's Sean Moody is working to figure out if police think they're connected. It's our top story at 12:30. Sean?
Since those shootings happened yesterday afternoon, Lexington police have questioned 2 people that we know of, but they haven't said anything about actually charging anyone with any crimes. They also haven't said whether or not they actually believe those shooting incidents are related. This all began with that shooting around 2:30 yesterday afternoon on LaSalle Road. Police said they found 1 victim there with critical injuries. Not long after that, they got called over to a Mr. Money shop about a mile and a half away, where witnesses said they saw someone jump out of a car and fire shots. Shortly after that, they said another victim showed up at UK Hospital with a critical gunshot wound. Then, about 4 o'clock, police got reports of another shooting over on Lima Drive, which isn't too far from LaSalle. There, they found a man down on the ground outside a store with 2 gunshot wounds in his back, and they believe someone took his car. Police said he was conscious when they took him to the hospital. The last time we talked with police, they weren't sure whether or not any of these shootings were connected. That's something they're looking into today. Now, later in the evening, Lexington police got another report of shots fired in the Hollow Creek area. They said they didn't find any actual shooting victims there, but they did find a car with bullet holes in it, and they think it might be related to one of those shooting incidents earlier in the day. In Lexington, Sean Moody, WKYT.
Sean, thank you. A Fayette County school bus was hit by a bullet near the LaSalle Road scene. There were no students on board.
A mother and son charged in connection to a murder were back in court this morning. Police say Adrian Collins shot and killed Ronnie Kelly in Madison County earlier this month. His mother, Melissa, is accused of trying to hide the gun. WKYT's Mark Barber shows us what happened during today's hearing.
For the first time in this case, officers are taking the stand, explaining why they think Adrian Collins killed 37-year-old Ronnie Kelly. They are also explaining why they think Collins' mother is also connected to this crime. During their preliminary hearing, a Richmond detective testified that Melissa Collins called 911 after the shooting in her apartment on Turpin Drive back on November 1st. She claimed that she did not see the shooting, but she heard her son shoot Kelly. That's when she said she passed out. But police don't believe that. They think she waited from an hour to an hour and a half to call them because of the coagulation of Kelly's blood. When detectives searched the home, they say they determined that Kelly was shot in the forehead at a table that sits 3. Investigators think Melissa Collins was not in a room, but was sitting at that table because there were not blood spatters on the back of her chair, but there were blood splatters on her robe. We're told they also found blood on Adrian Collins' clothing and right shoe. He is charged with murder. Both he and his mother are charged with tampering with evidence because officers think they hid the gun and then placed a knife at the scene. Melissa Collins told officers that she moved the gun to get it away from her son.
She removed the gun because her son Adrian had threatened suicide.
Kelly's sister says that she and his 3 stepchildren are dealing with a lot of pain. She tells me that they want to see the Collinses sentenced to life in prison. case now will be heard by a grand jury. In Richmond, Mark Barber, WKYT.
Mark, thank you. Kelly's family tells us that he was living in the apartment with Melissa Collins and her son Adrian, but he had his bags packed and was ready to move out the next day. 4 people died last night in what police are describing as a suspicious house fire. It happened just before 10 o'clock in Murray in western Kentucky. The victims include 24-year-old Marisol Hernandez, 29-year-old Bilmaro Arlorano, and a 5-year-old boy, as well as an 18-month-old girl. The adults were a newly married couple. State police say this is an active and ongoing investigation, and the fire is being investigated this afternoon as arson.
A pizza delivery driver who donated his time to help a fallen firefighter's family has become the victim of a robbery. Richmond police say 3 teens assaulted the man as he delivered Papa John's pizzas to Pine Street. We're told they stole his pizzas and a small amount of cash. Papa John's was donating all the money they made yesterday to the family of Officer Daniel Ellis, who was shot and killed earlier this month.
We have a business and an individual that's come in here to help, you know, and then this happens. It's pretty disgusting, really.
And the driver was a volunteer firefighter from Frankfort. Police plan to offer a reward for arrests in the case. A grand jury has indicted a man accused of arson and robbery. Adam Duff faces 7 charges for 2 separate incidents in Lexington in September. Duff is charged with arson for allegedly setting a home on Leestown Road on fire after an argument with a friend. Police say he shot someone during a robbery 2 days later. His other charges, including robbery, wanton endangerment, and fleeing and evading.
Raids in France ended with 2 people dead overnight. Authorities targeted an apartment in a Paris suburb. 1 person died in a shootout, and another died when she set off an explosive vest. Another 7 suspects were arrested. A prosecutor says police went to the house because of information that one of the suspects in Friday's terror attacks might be there. Authorities will not say if that suspect was killed or captured. The Paris attacks have raised concerns here in the U.S. about accepting refugees from Syria. The White House says it will not end the program allowing Syrian refugees. House Republicans are taking matters into their own hands. Craig Boswell has the details from Washington.
Republicans in Congress introduced legislation Tuesday evening to change the Obama administration program that will allow up to 10,000 Syrian refugees into the country.
Remember, ISIS in their own words said we want to exploit the refugee process to infiltrate the West.
The new bill would require the Department of Homeland Security to certify that each refugee is not a security threat and has undergone a background investigation. But at a classified briefing Tuesday, Jay Johnson, the head of the department, told lawmakers that's already happening.
In the last 2 years, we've only admitted about 1,800 refugees from Syria. That process takes 1.5 to 2 years to complete the vetting. It's very thorough.
During an overseas trip to the Philippines, President Obama called the bill offensive and said lawmakers have nothing to fear from people who have been driven from their homes by ISIS.
They're victims of this terrorism.
The Obama administration says only 2% of the 2,300 refugees accepted so far are single men of combat age.
Apparently they're scared of widows and orphans coming into the United States of America as part of our tradition of compassion.
But others have pointed out that women can be just as deadly as men, pointing to the suicide bombers in Paris last night as proof. Craig Boswell, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And a vote on this new bill could come as early as tomorrow.
Well, gas prices have dropped to just below the $2 mark. We spotted gas for $1.97 a gallon on Winchester Road in Lexington. Nearby stations were selling it for $1.99. Now, according to LexingtonGasPrices.com, some stations have dropped their prices as low as $1.79, so check it out.
Yeah, good timing with so many people hitting the road for Thanksgiving holiday next week. Well, forget the big shopping crowds on Black Friday. You can shop local instead.
Also, the important link between horses and gingerbread houses that's creating hope. That's still to come on WKYT.